Details of the settlement were not available Thursday night. HISD did not immediately respond to a request for comment. Naaman did not address the settlement directly, but told Houston Public Media, quote, "After reshaping what is now a high-performing HR department, I could not be prouder of my team's accomplishments," end quote. The Texas A&M System Board of Regents approved a new policy Thursday to limit curriculum related to race and gender identity. As you heard on NPR, the policy change gives university system presidents an effective veto over such courses. Committee on Academic and Student Affairs Chair Samuel Torn.
The board agreed it was essential for the Texas A&M University system to refine existing policies and lead the way with an in-depth and repeatable review of our courses. So, simply put, make sure we are educating, not advocating, and that we are teaching what we say we are going to teach.
The proposed policy change would also require faculty to adhere to approved courses and syllabi. Taking a look at your weather, it's going to be mostly sunny and 83 today. Right now, we've got a few clouds, 70 degrees on the UH campus. I'm Tom Perumian, News 88.7.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include ARM. On the latest episode of Tech Unheard, ARM CEO and host Renee Haas talks to Minister Ashwini Vaishnav of India about how tech and AI are helping to shape the future of computing.
Live from the University of Houston, it's Hello Houston, an open forum on today's biggest stories affecting Houston and beyond. Call now, 713-440-8870, or let us know your thoughts on today's topics by emailing us at talk@hellohouston.org. Now here's your host for Hello Houston, Ernie Manouse, Celeste Díaz Schurman, and Frank Billingsley.
Well, as they often say, 1 out of 3 ain't bad. You have Ernie Manouse with you today, but you also have a true symbol of local broadcasting for many years. Doris Childress, my old television partner, is here with us today, filling in one of the anchor seats. Doris, welcome back to the show.
Well, thanks for having me back. I enjoy being here with you.
You know, one comment a lot of people gave when we did the show last time, you were on, I don't know how many months ago it was, and you filled in. They were like, boy, the two of you just have this chemistry. And it's like, we had years of working on that.
Oh, my God. How long did we work together?
I came here in 96, and I think, when did you leave?
It had to be when I had Mackenzie, so it was like 2001, 2002.
But then you came back and worked some more, and then we've done one-offs and specials and things throughout the years. But
always fun.
We cut our teeth in broadcasting. Well, we had both had little careers outside
before then.
And then we came together and had a long run together to the point people sometimes thought we were married.
Yes. My husband didn't like that much, but, you know, it happens.
Yeah, they would. Either of us would be out in public because we were on television every day.
Where's your Ernie?
Yeah.
At the station.
Yeah. What's Doris up to? And I'm like, I don't know. She's doing her life, whatever. Yes, we are happy to have you sitting in and with us today. So we'll talk about this later in the show, too. But this is your season.
It is my season. I am Miss Christmas.
You love Christmas. You even have a little gingerbread man on you. People
I'll tell
can
you
see
all about
that.
it. Yeah.
People can see that if you go to our
you see
YouTube.
Gingy. There he is. Yeah.
Who is it?
This is Gingy.
Oh, Gingy.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the earrings are all the way.
Anyway, you can see that. You can see what Doris is wearing if you go to the YouTube channel. You can find us at hellohouston.org, or just if you're on YouTube, just Google Hello Houston. Google search for us, and you'll find us there. Anyway, what else can I tell you today? It says in my script I should have Doris do weather. I think that's hanging on from when Frank is here.
I'll just go ahead and do it.
All right, do the weather.
It's warm.
Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
She'll be back with updates on the weather throughout the show. We've been promised cold. And
I want it.
With Nutcracker Market going on, you want that chill in the air.
I want it. I was going to do a sweater today. I had it all planned out, but the weather said, no, I'll talk to Frank when I see him.
Yeah, she'll get back on Frank about that one. But as always, we've got a full show for you today. Coming up in just a little bit, we'll have Dwight Boykins here. He is in the runoff for Houston City Council at-large position 4. Yesterday, we had Alejandra Salinas, his competitor, the other one in the race. And so we get his point of view on the same issues we talked to her about and help you become a better educated voter. Remember, the runoff election is coming up in early December, mid-December. And you got to make sure you get out there and vote, and we want to keep you well informed.
I hope everyone gets out and vote.
I do too. It's so important, and you forget. And off-year elections, we talk about this all the time. Off-year elections already have a much smaller turnout. And then when you get into a runoff on an off-year election, it gets down to just a handful of votes.
And it's in December, so busy, busy, busy. But take the time. It's important.
Right. A handful of votes. When you think your vote doesn't matter in these really small turnout elections, your vote truly does matter. So get out there and vote. Make sure you're registered. You can go to harrisvotes.org, or is it .com? Either one, you'll find it.
Either one.
You can check and see if your registration is all up to date and everything, and you can do it. Anyway, moving into, there's a lot going on in the world, and we're going to start off with the news. And Doris, give us the first headline.
I'll give you the first headline right now. California plans to revoke 17,000 commercial driver's licenses given to immigrants after discovering the expiration dates went past when the drivers were legally allowed to be in the United States. Officially, they said that on Wednesday. Now, the announcement follows harsh criticism from the Trump administration about California and other states granting license to people in the country illegally. The issue was thrust into the public conscious in August when a tractor-trailer driver not authorized to be in the U.S. and made an illegal U-turn, and it ended up causing a crash in Florida that killed 3 people. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy said Wednesday that California's action to revoke these licenses is an admission that the state acted improperly, even though it had previously defended the licensing standard. Now, Governor Newsom's office said that every one of the drivers whose license is being revoked had valid work authorization from the federal government. At first, his office declined to disclose the exact reason for revoking the license, saying only they had violated a state law. Later, his office revealed that state law that it was referring to was one that requires the license expire on or before a person's legal status to be in the United States ends, as reported to the DMV. So, what do you think about taking away these commercial licenses? Is it fair or unfair? You can call or text us at 713-440-8870. We want to hear what you have to say about this one.
You know, for me, the first point of reference, the first question is, we were looking at the expiration dates of their legal status in the country, not the expiration date of the licenses, if I'm correct in this. So the licenses are still valid. What was invalid was their right to be in the country. My concern is, well, you talked with me about this earlier, the workforce that we need, especially at this time of the year. And yes, if you have an issue with your being a fully licensed individual in our country, correct that. But to take the livelihood away from the person to earn a living and also to provide a service that we need, especially at this time of the year, complicates matters unnecessarily.
I always worry about due process. How do you legally look at all of these people at one time? You're talking about 17,000 drivers, and have they, really vetted each person to see what their status is, or is this just a clean sweep? And like you said, when we're talking about this time of the year, we're talking about filling these jobs to get all of the supply chain through the system. I mean, I know this is selfish, but I don't want Christmas held up.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been a rough year for everybody. Job losses, people just being a little bit depressed about the season or the feeling that we have across the country. So when you layer this on top of just coming out of the furloughs, I think it's going to be a bit much for the country to handle right now.
713-440-8870. What do you think about this topic? For me, it's broader. When you also get into Texas, we have passed a rule, a regulation, a law. I'm not exactly sure where it falls into it, aligning with federal rules that the FMCSA, which is actually just part of the Texas or the U.S. Regulation on driving and allowing of licenses across the country. They are suspending the issuance and renewal of commercial driver's license and driver's license permits for non-citizens who are refugees, asylum seekers, and recipients of DACA. All of that are being pulled back. I have a problem with that because these folks are still in our country, and if they're in our country, they are going to be driving. And if they are driving, they should be licensed. It's even worse if we put out drivers who do not have licenses because they haven't gone through the process of showing that they know how to drive. Because if they're here, they're going to be driving.
You know, it's a
especially in
long and
Texas.
arduous task to get a CDL license.
Mm-hmm.
There are so many hours that they have to have an actual driving experience. They have to take the test. There's the training and just the experience on the road, starting with the short distances and then going long. I have a nephew who's done this, and it is exhausting to go through the process. So how do you feel that? And now you're adding in more people who are unemployed. And what does that do to other systems? What is that going to do to people not having employment and then needing foods? And then now we're going to have the stress on food pantries and the food banks. So it's layered, and it just trickles down.
Yeah, it's a tricky thing. And also I go back to, if it's about public safety, it's important that we keep the public safe. One way is to make sure that those on the road are properly licensed. If you are pulling licenses away, I remember when I first moved here, it was like, make sure you drive safely because there are people on the road here that don't have legal status and don't have driver's license. If they get in an accident with you, they're going to flee the accident because of the ramifications that could come from it. So always make sure you're more well aware on the roads because you don't want to even be the victim of an accident because there's not the oversight that you need when you're involving people who aren't licensed drivers.
Always drive for yourself and the other person. That's what I was taught. But don't we already have a driver shortage? We're looking at all of these cutbacks and revocation of licenses.
And it's funny, yes. And what's funny about that is the fact that we think of ourselves as such an advanced transportation country. So much of our product moves just on the back of trucks. Yes, there are trains going. Yes, they fly cargo around. Yes, ships bring cargo. But how it gets from all of the ports in the center is through truck drivers. And truck drivers are the backbone of our country when it comes to distributing goods nationwide. And when you cut those kind of folks from driving or you limit them, it slows everything down and it leads to a lot of trouble.
So I do wonder, is there a plan to move it after they're gone? I mean, or did we just blanketly do it?
Those jobs.
And delivery delays.
Yeah. 713-440-8870. We have Clark on the line from Southwest Houston. Clark, what's on your mind?
Yes. I want to say that the immigrants that came to this country over the past 10 years has kept this economy going and kept everything flowing. Now everybody want to turn against them, and this doesn't make any sense. But if they doing something against the law, like their green card or permit has expired and they haven't taken care of that and their license continue, then once they get caught, once the system catch them, of course, there should be some kind of penalty for that.
Mm-hmm.
But these people actually kept this country going, and we never had enough workers. We still don't have enough workers. So give credit where credit is due. I'm pretty sure the Republicans benefited just as all Americans benefited from these immigrants. So stop the foolishness and no more things. We doing things as usual because this administration is not doing things as usual. So I'm not buying Christmas as usual. I'm not doing things that I used to do. I'm boycotting.
Clark, thank you very much for those comments. What it makes me think about is that a lot of things that on the surface seem to make some sort of sense when it comes to, it's an illegal in the country or they were in the country and then their status expired and they shouldn't be here anymore. Yeah, so then they shouldn't be working on their own. That's great in theory, but in practice, these people are still here. And I think it goes back to the much bigger question is we need to look at our immigration policy in a different light. We need to figure out how we depend on these folks that come into this country, however they get here, what we do when they don't come in through proper channels but are still contributing to our environment. What happens to the children that are brought here that grow up, the dreamers as we call them, the DACA students? All of that needs to really have thoughtful conversation. It's easy to sit back and say, your status isn't where it should be, get out of the country. But there's a ripple effect.
You're asking us to do something really big, and that is to look at each other as just human beings and think at the larger scale of humanity. Sometimes I think we're desensitized in looking at each other as just people as a part of the greater creation. We've gotten so down to the black and the white, what's going to benefit me, what's going to benefit them, and the us versus them, that we can't see each other as people. So issues like this get so clouded.
Yeah.
And I just wish that we as a nation could just step back, take a beat, and say, hey, let me just look at it from your perspective, in your shoes, just for a minute, and then try to reason out where we're going with things.
713-440-8870. Chris is on the line from Cyprus. Chris, what's on your mind?
Hi, good morning. Thanks for taking my call. I think the bigger picture is about public safety. Just making sure that someone is a competent driver, that they understand the rules of the road. I kind of hold it kind of on the same level as I'm a licensed scuba diver. I've got training no matter where I'm in the waters and everything, and once they give me an air tank, they know that I've got training to be able to go underwater, come back up safely, not have, put anybody else at risk. And I think it's just public safety is the bigger picture.
Yeah. Chris, thank you for that.
And I do agree with that. Public safety, big issue. I mean, I'm coming in on 59 every morning and I'm swerving and moving, trying to get away from a truck or two. Right. So I do want them to be skilled, licensed, and ready to be on the road.
Right, especially and especially in our area, the way they're flying down those highways, and we're all living on highways if you live in this area. You want to know that the person in the other vehicle next to you is properly licensed.
Because that's a powerful vehicle.
Yeah. Now, has nothing to do with should they be here, shouldn't they be here? That's another issue, I think. I think they're two different issues, and I think the problem is we're merging it all together, and you get punished in all regards because you're punished in one, and that's the problem. Also, what you were talking about a moment ago, Doris, is the whole concept of the other. As long as we build groups as the other and not us, it's easy to attack these things. But like you were saying, if we all look at each other as all part of the same family, you judge things differently. You gauge things differently.
We're never going to agree on everything.
Yeah.
So we start there.
Okay, we're going to move on, and we were going to move on to another story of mine, but I'm going to move on to a story of yours.
Oh, no.
I want to get to the Pope. So take me to Pope Leo. He did something that most popes, I don't think, put out.
Well, I'll tell you what he did. Pope Leo revealed his 4 favorite movies, and they are It's a Wonderful Life, The Sound of Music, Ordinary People, and Life is Beautiful. And in case you're wondering, and I know you are, did he see Conclave? Yes, he did. According to his brother, he watched the 2024 papal thriller to prepare for his real-life conclave. So, guys out there, what do you think about the Pope's list? And do you have a favorite 5? Call us at 713-440-8870. I'm starting with you, Ernie. Your top 5.
I don't know. Before we get to ours, I want to take a look at his. I'm skirting the issue.
Okay.
We talked about this earlier, and we said, it's always shifting for me. It always depends on my mood and where I'm at, what time of the year it is.
And what decade you're in life.
Yeah.
But,
Sunset Boulevard will always be at the top. I'm not worried about that. I think what's funny on the Pope's list, and I'd love to know what you folks think about this Pope's list, as Doris told you, 713-440-8870. You can call or text it to us. That he saw Conclave to prepare for his conclave.
And there you go.
when we were shifting between popes, when the one passed and we were looking for the new one, we had a lot of experts on our show, and I would often ask, how accurate is the movie Conclave? Disregarding the ending, which is probably a very unique situation, and not to give any spoilers, but how they showed the process. And a lot of them said it's similar without the political intrigue that they kind of built into that movie. And what makes it even more real for me now is knowing that Leo looked at it and said, what's going on? How is this?
So how do I maneuver?
Yeah. what are they? I think that's very funny. Surprises in the list, I would say the only one on the surface that would be a surprise would be Ordinary People. But you have to remember, Pope Leo in his previous life was in the Chicago area. Ordinary People was shot in the Chicago area.
And there's the connection.
A big deal. You could see why he would see it. The other movies seem like they would fall
because
on
they
a
all
paper
talk
list.
about family, resilience, and some with mental health. Those are all issues he is really trying to address. So I can see the connection between each one. But this morning, I was listening to another newscast and found out that he has one more.
What's
yes,
that one?
The Blues Brothers.
Another Chicago
There you go.
film.
There you go.
That's
there you
funny,
go.
the
And he
Blues
actually
Brothers.
dressed, I think it was when he was in seminary, he dressed as one of the Blues Brothers. Oh, I was ready for this one today. So,
That was funny. I hadn't heard that. I love that one. Ah, okay. Let me switch this question up then a little bit. You read through the list. It's a Wonderful Life, Sound of Music, Ordinary People, Life is Beautiful, and now we know the Blues Brothers movie. What movie surprises you the most that's on his list, and what surprises you the most that isn't on his list? I was expecting a Jesus of Nazareth, a
Passion
Jesus
of the
Christ
Christ,
Superstar,
any of those.
something that,
But I was happy with the list.
Yeah.
Because it shows him as just one of the guys watching movies, for pure entertainment or just to reinforce some of the social issues that he's into. I think he kind of knows all the other stories.
Yeah. Okay, really quick side story. So many, many, many years ago, we used to collect audio Christmas gifts and put them on a special I used to do in Chicago. And one year we wanted to get the story of the birth of baby Jesus. And we reached out to Tammy Faye Baker. She was now Tammy Faye Messner at the time, and asked, would you contribute the story? And she wrote back, yes, she would love to do it. Can you send it to me? And I thought to myself, shouldn't you already know that story? Isn't that what you do? In her defense, I'm sure she wanted our wording of how we wanted to proceed with. But it just struck me as funny. So when you say you think the Pope would know that story,
he knows those stories. He's got them down pat.
To see him done. Well, we got a lot more coming up on the show today. Please continue to share what you think of the Pope's list, either your top 5 or what surprised you or didn't. We'll find out.
And
Here
we'll
we go.
get
One of our
Ernie's top 5.
comments came up. I've got to just share this comment real quick. Is the Pope one up on Celeste? Has he seen Star Wars? It's well known around here Celeste is not the big film buff. And so, yeah, the Pope's got one up on, I'm sure the Pope's got a lot up on all of us.
On all of us.
But anyway, still to come on the show, we are going to be talking with Dwight Boykins, who is in the runoff election with Alejandra Salinas for Houston City Council at-large position. That's coming up right after this break here on News 88.7.
Hi, I'm Lenny Ambrose from St. Arnold Brewing Company, proud supporters of Houston Public Media. Right now, with your $60 donation, you can choose tickets to News and Brews. This member-exclusive event takes place February 17th. Enjoy a pint, connect with fellow NPR fans, and meet the Houston Public Media Newsroom in person. Select News and Brews tickets when you donate at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate.
Global Climate Summit is being held in a small Brazilian city near the Amazon that's already facing climate challenges.
Putting a cup in Belém is also showing a mirror of what is happening to the world and showing what is the world going to look like if we don't do anything.
Reports from COP30, climate talks in the Amazon, on the next Climate One.
You can hear that Sunday morning at 6 o'clock.
Find out what's new in Venice.
Going inside of the Doge's Palace after dark is wow.
Hear what it's like to live like a global nomad for the last 12 years.
We are much braver than we were when we started out, I'll tell you that.
And try out a local food tour to get a taste of where you're traveling.
I think a food tour really gives you a taste of local life.
Join us for the next Travel with Rick Steves.
You can hear it tomorrow morning at 6 o'clock.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from listeners like you and from the Houston Ballet, presenting Stanton Welch's The Nutcracker. The holiday tradition returns to the Wortham Theater next Friday. Tickets available at houstonballet.org.
Support comes from the Clarion at Brazosport College, presenting jazz clarinetist Anat Cohen with Corticino, November 21st at 7:30 p.m. Tickets and more information at brazosport.edu/Clarion.
And now back to Hello Houston. To comment on today's topics, call or text 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. Now here's Ernie Manouse and guest host Doris Childress.
You've got your own little entrance.
I heard that.
Music there.
I feel
and
important.
Well, moving on, former City Council member Dwight Boykins and Houston attorney Alejandra Salinas are both advanced to the runoff election for Houston City Council at-large 4 position after last week's general election. And we've invited both of them to join us here on Hello Houston to talk about their platforms. Yesterday, we were joined by Alejandra Salinas, which means today we're joined by Dwight Boykins. Dwight, welcome to Hello Houston.
Thank you guys for having me. Thank you.
You have
so
headphones
much.
in front of you. If we get any calls and anyone wants to call in, you can do it at 713-440-8870, and you can ask your questions too. I guess the place I would start in all of this is we have 2 really strong candidates for this position. What separates you from your opponent?
And thank you guys. Thank you again for having me. I think it's pretty clear to experience. I've served on city council for 6 years, and I've sat around the horseshoe when we had budget crisis, when we've had hurricanes and heat disasters, and sitting in the situation and dealing with that and trying to make a decision that you think is fair and not political because you're receiving federal money and you're trying to deal with the state as the pass-through with that federal money. You have to do what you think is right and not political and work with both sides of the aisle to be able to satisfy the residents in the city, and I've done that. And I think, and I'm not saying she can't learn that. Let me be clear about that. But the experience is there, and serving on the Budget and Housing Committee with the city. But even after that, when I sat out for about 6 years, I established a nonprofit that helped senior citizens with home repairs at no cost to them. And we repaired over 607 homes during a hurricane when trees fell on seniors' homes. We cut over 32 trees with the community at no cost to the seniors. And I'm just saying, I think the experience matters because you will be facing situations as a council member and as the mayor, because we do not have a city manager, where you have to work with the mayor, work with your other colleagues on council to make decisions that help people and not play politics. And don't worry about not being reelected. Just do what's right. And I've done that.
I'm curious also, before we get into all of the other stuff, the difference you see in the challenges facing you working with this current city council and this current mayor to the past. What are the new challenges there?
Well, the good thing is that you would have an opportunity. I would have an opportunity rather to work with 3 different mayors. I think I'll be the first council member ever to do that.
Wow.
Mayor Turner, Mayor Parker, and now Mayor Whitmire. All of them bring different personalities to governing. It's very rewarding when you have a mayor that allows you to represent the district or the constituents that you represent as an at-large council member, understanding that you don't work for them, you work for the people. And that's important. And I've had some great situations with Mayor Turner, both Mayor Turner and Mayor Parker, and I look forward to work with Mayor Whitmire as well. One thing I've been told, I have not worked with Whitmire, is that he typically allows you to carry on what what your initiatives are, but make certain that just keeping him in the loop, and I think that's respectful.
Yeah. I just want to jump right into a few things. Housing affordability, disaster recovery funding, you mentioned that, public safety, garbage collection, and protection for the vulnerable populations. Of all of those issues that we're facing in the city now, which is the most pressing and the one that you want to jump right in and handle if elected?
Thank you, Doris. Infrastructure first, and that wasn't included. Housing is definitely important, but infrastructure. Now, let me tell you why. In 2011, I was on a committee with a group of engineers that created a program called Renew Houston. And we promised the voters, if it was passed, we would collect money. The system will collect money, place it in a lockbox, and have it designated only for projects to get street and drainage, potholes, all these issues with infrastructure under control. It was set up. Some of the money was not misused illegally, but misappropriated away from the charter that it was structured to be used for. It was a lawsuit took place, went through the courts. The courts agreed with the engineers that sued the program and said, look, City of Houston, pay the money back. And Mayor Whitmire gave him credit for this, agreeing with the working and compromising with the engineers to come up with a payment plan to put that money in a lockbox. The reason I'm saying that's the number one, a settlement in a lockbox, the number one issue is because if we can get our streets drainage, it impacts flooding, quality of life in our city, and that's very important. However, we told the taxpayers we were going to protect that money, and as an at-large council member, I've talked to the mayor about this, and I told him I want to be considered like a semi-watchdog to make certain that that annual audit takes place and that we get these projects where we need them.
I guess when you talk about infrastructure
Yes,
and driving in general, one of the pet peeves that I've had over the past 10 years is driving back home. I'm from Acres Homes, everybody, the 4-4 as they call it. So driving back to my old community, and I'm about to lose my car on every stop because the potholes. And
Yes.
I mean, it's just treacherous, and it's causing more car repairs. And you don't see that change after 10 years. How do you expect for the public to trust your word or the city's word on things like that in the future?
Thank you again, Doris. That's an excellent question. That's why it's so important. I mean, when I went in and talked to the mayor, I made it very clear what my initiative and what my goal is. I said within the first 30 days, I want to create an ad hoc committee to oversee this fund, to make certain with community residents on this committee, let me be clear about that, to make certain that this money is used properly. So your district council member receives up to $1 million in a council service district service fund, and they can use some of that money, Doris, to fix put panel replacements in, just to fix pots or squares of holes. But to reconstruct the entire street, you have to go into that fund, the Rebuild Houston, now called Moving Houston Forward Fund, to do that street. I can assure you, the billions of dollars that will be collected, we can get all our streets throughout this city within the next 15 to 20 years where we want them.
We are speaking with Dwight Boykins, who is running for Houston City Council at large for position. If you'd like to join the conversation, give us a call, 713-440-8870. Pop on those headphones because Miriam from Woodlands Heights is on the line and would love to talk to you. Miriam, what's on your mind today?
Hi, I have a question. So I listened yesterday to the opposing candidate.
Alejandra Salinas.
And something was Salinas, right? And something was said about her possibly wanting to initiate lawsuits to deal with some of the issues with ICE. And I listened to the mayor yesterday during city council and some of the council members, and they explained very, eloquently what was going on with ICE and how they're limited by what they can do. So my question to Mr. Boykins is, are you going to want to work with the mayor in the administration, or are you going to want to fight the mayor in the administration?
And thank you for that question, and I'm going to let you answer it, but it folds into a question that we asked yesterday, so I want to combine the two so you can get a complete answer. And what we were talking about yesterday was a quote from Mayor Whitmire. It was reported by the Houston Chronicle. He said, "I'm not going to say that we're not cooperating with ICE because that's frankly not true." The quote caused a bit of a backlash from City Council Mario Castillo, who had threatened to withhold HPD overtime. Add that into as you look at this issue.
Well, let me just say this. With regards to working with the mayor, I look forward to working with Mayor Whitmire. One thing I can say about him from sitting on the back row right now, not sitting on council with him, is that I notice if he tends to tell you he's going to do something, he's going to do it. And that's all a council member wants, an effective council member wants. If, he dealt with the firefighters' pension. He took care of that. He's dealt with this Rebuild Houston infrastructure budget. He's taking care of that. He's talked about increasing removing the revenue cap to a point to bring in funding for first responders with the Texas legislature, where we have the revenue cap with the state. Working with a mayor like that, I look forward to it.
Okay.
And I think with regards to the immigration position, remember, he's a lawyer. I'm not. He's a lawyer, and he's careful with his words. And with regards to what ICE is doing, you have no idea of legal cases or being put together. You just don't know. And I'm sure I have not heard Mayor Whitmire's statement on that regarding that. I've read some of it. But with regards to what Councilmember Castile and the mayor is dealing with, I would not want to make a comment not knowing. But I can tell you this, as a council member, I look forward to work with not only the mayor, but the other 15 council members.
Do you have a thought on ICE and the cooperation with the Houston Police Department, or do you leave that to the mayor and the police department?
No, you work with them, but what you're going to find, and I do a little work in Washington, D.C., some federal appropriations work. You need to know all sides of it. You need to know if federal dollars are being constrained that the city needs for housing, for other programs to this. Not saying it's right or wrong. I'm just saying you got to look at the big picture when you make that decision. I think it's irresponsible for us to be using our police force when we're a shortage to take on something that I think is a federal issue. There are a lot of people in our city that are going through the proper process of becoming legal here in Houston, and I think we need to let that process take place. But to just pull people over because what they look like, hell, it could be me this evening.
Mm-hmm. So what does ideal interaction look like between HPD and ICE, in your opinion?
I really don't know, Doris. I don't want to guess on that because the way I operate, I go and meet with
because
the
it seems
chief.
like they have to. If you're in my city and we're governing the city, we've got to interact.
As
so
I
what does it look like?
and you can clarify this for me if I'm wrong on it, that in routine stops and reasons that people are pulled over by the police, when they run the plates, when they run the person's ID, it comes up that there's an ICE warrant for them, and therefore the police then notify ICE of it. And I guess the question comes into, should they be doing that? And that's the concern I think a lot of people have.
Yeah, and let me just say, regardless.
And if I'm wrong on that, please clarify.
No, what you just explained, though, if that's the process, if they pull over a person, not just a person that ICE has a warrant, anyone that have a warrant, you need to follow the law. That's just the bottom line with that. And I'm okay with that. But just pulling people over based on racial profiling and other issues, I'm not there. And I look forward to sit down and talk with the mayor and police chief once we're elected.
Yeah. Okay, let's go to another question. This one was a text that came in from Jen in Clear Lake. Says, and I'm sure a lot of people can relate to this one, our heavy trash pickup keeps being delayed by months. What exactly will Boykins do to get that resolved?
Well, I could tell you, thank you for the text, first of all. And I've spoken with the director, Mr. Hassan, and he brought to my attention, and I was glad to hear, that the on-time solid waste, not recycle, is pretty much up to speed to where they want it, almost at 98% of where they set the bar. And the recycle is about 85%, which tells me, and the mayor purchased 55 new pickups, trash trucks, and only about 15 are in. So once they get those trucks in, I think it will help reduce some of this trash we have going on just around our city and picking up trash in the residential neighborhoods.
We're speaking with Dwight Boykins, who's running for Houston City Council at large for position. The phone number here, 713-440-8870. You can call or text. Jose from Champions has called. Jose, what's on your mind?
Hello.
Hello.
Hi. Yes, my concern is for Mr. Boykins. What does he plan to do with the homeless? I know Mayor Whitmire cleaned downtown with the homeless, but the suburbs is what we're dealing with. Out in 1960, Champions, this is what we're dealing with, the homeless. He moved all the homeless out of downtown, but suburbs, because I travel sometimes around the city, I've seen in Bel Air, Southwest, in East End, Pasadena. That's what I'm seeing everywhere. But this is what he's done. He's dispersed. He got rid of the problem downtown, but not around all the suburbs, this outlying neighborhood, even Maryland. This is what I'm seeing.
Jose, thank you for that call.
Thank you, Jose, and that's a great question. And I can tell you, serving on city council for 6 years, it was a problem back then and still continue to be a problem. Moving a Greyhound bus station was one way to start moving towards addressing this. But the big thing that I think is important is that that the mayor and Chief Satterwhite have come up with a plan to bring additional beds in to try to help some people who want help to get squared away. I can probably tell you, Jose, I'm probably one of the few council members that actually stayed the night under the bridge just to have a conversation with the homeless population back when I was on council. I realized they have a mayor, city council, a governor, and a president within their encampment. But we talk about mental illness, and you're absolutely correct. But let me tell you something. Some of this stuff, and I'm not being heartless, is just a choice that they're making, some of them. Homeless people, you find a single parent who went into a battered situation or whatever the case may be and find themselves out there and may have a child or two. You offer them a place to stay, transitional, and help, they're jumping on it. The same with a male. They will jump on the opportunity. But there are some people who don't want to follow the rules, want to continue to just make your quality of life in your neighborhood uncomfortable, and we're supposed to turn a deaf ear. No. I want to enforce the city ordinance, make certain we treat them like we treat anyone else. I'm not saying arrest anybody, but I'm saying you got to balance the quality of life of people in the city with the homeless, but not give them a leg up when opportunities are there for them to change their life. And I'm sorry, people disagree.
So has there been a discussion? I know you said you stayed in the camp.
Yes.
How do we discuss with that government system within the homeless population as to what is it, that population you're just talking about, the ones who just don't want to do it and they want their own way of life and this is, how do we enter a good discourse with them to see how can we really help you? Like you said, not everybody has a mental illness. Not everyone is a single mom who's falling on hard times, and they'll take the help. What is the discussion we need to have with those who say, I want to live my own life and this is the way I want to do it, even though they're infringing on other neighborhoods and other populations? What are the words we need to say to them to get them to a place that's balanced?
That is a great question, Doris. I traveled to San Antonio also. I think it's called New Hope. It's something in San Antonio. But the concept is a school courtyard, the buildings, the showers, the kitchen, the courtyard where they can sleep outside, but they have to be in at 10 o'clock. And I'm saying that to say there are people, if they really, really want to get some help, even if they're mentally challenged, can take on programs like what they're doing in San Antonio, the 200 beds that Mayor Whitmire and his team putting together right now, in addition to Search and everybody else that's trying to help. It is very difficult because when you take a position, Doris, they think you're heartless. I didn't say arrest anyone, but I'm telling you, when you sleep under that camp, it's easy to talk when you're on that side of it. When you go and sit down, some of the homeless people even tell you that there are people out here taking advantage of a situation that shouldn't. And when you impede the quality of life of people in my city, I'm going to balance it. I'm not just going to give it to one side.
Can we look at structuring, sort of like you said, they have their own government system, offer the opportunity in the centers that we're hoping to put them in to helping those people to facilitate the structure of this new environment that's safer and more secure and amenable to everyone? I mean, I think maybe that's the discussion, and those are the people who've already established some kind of hierarchy and government system within the camps. And can we do that?
That's a good question. I don't know the answer to that one, Doris.
Okay, let's think about it.
You did know the answer to a lot of our questions. Dwight Boykins is running for Houston City Council at large for position. Dwight, thank you for coming in and joining us today.
I've been looking forward to this moment. Thank you guys so much for having me.
Date of the runoff is?
Early vote December 1, election date December 13th.
People need to know that. Coming up, we're going to talk with David Brown about 10 years of the Texas Standard. Stay with us here as Hello Houston continues.
We know you value Houston Public Media. That's why you're watching right now. So take the next step and become a new member of the station you rely on. Every gift makes a difference. And what matters most right now is supporting the station that brings you the news and information you rely on. It only takes a minute to make a big difference. So join as a new member today at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or call 800-364-8300.
News 88.7.
On the next Living on Earth, stingless beekeeping in the Amazon strengthens economic and spiritual ties.
The Ashaninka people have a very strong relationship with the stingless bees. They call them their ancestors. They say, we live with the bees. The bees live with us.
I'm Ainsley O'Neill, Rights of Nature for Insects. Next time on Living on Earth from PRX.
You can hear that tomorrow night at 10 o'clock.
Support comes from Visit Galveston, presenting winter events across the island, including Holiday in the Gardens, Polar Express train ride, and attractions welcoming visitors during the holiday season. More information is available at visitgalveston.com.
Support comes from Houston Habitat for Humanity, celebrating the season by creating affordable home ownership opportunities. Together, we build stability. Learn how you can make a difference at houstonhabitat.org/NPR.
Support comes from Phoenicia Specialty Foods, offering holiday catering from charcuterie and dessert boards to events, imported gift baskets, and more in downtown and West Houston. Local family owned since 1983. More at yumstop.com.
Support comes from the Dan L. Duncan Comprehensive Cancer Center at Baylor St. Luke's Medical Center, offering comprehensive cancer care that is compassionate, personalized, and driven by clinical research. More at stlukeshealth.org/cancer.
And now back to Hello Houston. To comment on today's topics, call or text 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. Now here's Ernie Manouse and guest host Doris Childress.
If you're a regular listener to Houston Public Media, you no doubt are familiar with Texas Standard, a daily statewide public radio news hour that delivers thoughtful coverage of everything from politics to lifestyle, technology, and more, all from a uniquely Texas perspective. Since March, they've been celebrating their 10th anniversary with a series of special content, including a top 10 list featuring the best stories and an anniversary tour, which has made its stop right here in Houston today for a very special event this evening at St. Arnold's Brewing Company. To tell us more about reaching this decades-long milestone and how they're going to celebrate tonight, it's the host of Texas Standard, David Brown. Hello there, David.
Howdy.
Welcome,
So nice
David.
to be here in your studios. My goodness, this place is wonderful. These are some nice digs, folks. I got to tell you, it's making us all really jealous.
We're going to let the comments continue, but quickly I want to jump in and say,
sure.
if folks want to join the conversation, give us a call right now or text us at 713-440-8870. And it's so funny. I mean, we work in this business, but still, when I hear your voice coming out of you and I'm sitting here, I kind of look away and I'm like, okay, I'm on the radio.
Same thing, dude. I mean, same thing. This is such a weird experience for me because usually I'm on your side of the mic, right? And I've got scripts and papers like you do in front of you and the layout of the computer and everything. And when I see a bunch of microphones in a room and I know I'm supposed to be on mic, this impulse almost overtakes me to just talk until the director says, okay, you filled you've kept us from having dead air, Brown. So, you know.
And we could just listen because you have a magnificent voice.
Oh, you are so kind. You know, when I got started in radio back in the early days, it was the Walter Cronkite era, right? God, that dates me, doesn't it?
That's Ernie's friend.
Yeah, well, there you go. Is that right?
Yeah.
Well, wow.
Walty.
We're going to have to talk tonight. But in any event, I remember I wanted to push my voice down to the lower registers of Edward R. Murrow. And my news director called up and said, you don't need to do that. You don't need to do that. Someone tried to, in this news station that I was working at, they said, you know what you need to do? Because I was considered as having a high voice compared, right?
I'm right there with you.
Yeah. So they said, you need to smoke Bel Airs because there's fiberglass in the filter. It was all baloney. They figured that they were going to try to get me to go off, before I got on air.
I like better how you were about to say a different word and switched it to baloney right there. That was a good save.
I see. Radio guys pick up on that stuff, right?
Well, it's funny when you talk about the voice, and oftentimes people will say to me, oh, you have a great radio voice. And my entire career, I've thought I have a horrible radio voice because we came up in that world.
But here's what's happened. I mean, when I entered radio, and perhaps this is your experience too, used to be that every radio station had news. That's obviously, that's no longer the case. It was deregulation, right? And so they kept me on basically in case the government changed its mind about, the requirement to have news. So I'm working there, but it gives me a chance to kind of work my chops and everything. And I mean, it was a wonderful learning process for me, right? And I realized, too, that it wasn't about having that voice of authority. It was about having a voice that sounded like your friend, somebody that you could trust, somebody that sounded normal and authentic. And I think that is what really pushed public radio into the cars and homes of so many people back around, I think, 20, 25 years ago. Do you think that was when the big public radio revolution kind of grabbed hold?
As weird as it is, I think a big push toward its more diverse popularity was SNL making fun of it. Once you get into the zeitgeist, it's like, what are they mocking here?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden it became cool to be part of the...
I know which one you're talking about. One of my favorites.
Yeah, for sure.
Taking us away from the talk of how we sound, it's the content of what we give. And I'm curious from your point of view, having done this as long as you had, and we're a relatively new show in this format, and it's what makes for a good story.
Boy, that's a really interesting question. Someone once told me, and I think this was a really insightful thing, that all the best stories begin the same way. Once upon a time. Right? They all do. You don't have to say once upon a time.
But you think.
But you think once upon a time. And I think that when you enter a situation, one of the big challenges for a journalist, and I think most folks who've had any sort of brush with journalism realize this, is finding that sort of narrative arc. But you don't have to work at it. You have to experience it and immerse yourself in it. When I remember during Hurricane Harvey, right, there was this impulse to kind of get all of the names and numbers and figures and that you were getting from local officials. I had to force myself into thinking about, okay, what's the story here? I have to experience this and in some way feel this as others were feeling it, right? Even though I was, carrying around a microphone. And that was, I found, a real practical challenge to look at that person standing on the steps of a double wide with the water rising and the dogs barking and the police not knowing if they can step into this yard because of the live wires that were, in the water, and feeling that overwhelming sense with that person of now what? Now what? Now what? And the growing sense of urgency. Now, how do you take that and put it into words when you're talking over a microphone and trying to explain this to people who were, in El Paso or someplace else? And I think that's what distinguishes public radio news coverage is that I keep going back to this word authenticity. If you can find it, if you can get yourself out of the way and try to feel that moment and put that into words and articulate it in a way that you might with your mom if you were talking to her on the phone or something, and you really want to impress her with what this experience was to you. You know what I mean?
Yeah. At what point in the show's history do you think it transformed from you're my audience to you're my community?
Well, that's a great question. I think that from the outset, we knew that this was... Certainly Hurricane Harvey was a transformative moment. There's no question about that for our program. And I think if you go back and listen to the show, and you can do this at texasstandard.org, you can go into the archives and find a show. Go back to September 1st, 2017, and you'll hear what I'm talking about. I've listened to it several times as a kind of just to kind of wash my mind of where I'm at, to get a sense of, okay, where do we get it right, And I think that sort of reporting is the best kind that gets to the question you were talking about. But from the outset, what we knew was a lot of things were happening here in Texas. Newspapers were folding. There was a real moment for journalism, a crisis in journalism, and we knew that we had to kind of fill that hole. And so there was that sense of urgency from the get-go that this project was bigger than a show. It was about the people in Texas, and it was about what they needed. And I think that in a very earnest way, everyone who works on the show, and I consider them to be the greatest radio team in broadcasting, they got it. Mm-hmm. They got it. And I think that listeners kind of have picked up on that, too. Okay. I'd like to think.
Watch this segue. What the people really need in Texas, bad segue, but we'll do it anyway, is to celebrate with you tonight.
Oh, man, yeah, absolutely.
10 years.
I've not been out to this St. Arnold Brewing Company. Have you?
Oh, yeah, we do a lot. They're a good partner with the station here, and they put on a nice party. And you'll be there. Folks can meet with you, chat with you, 5 to 7
from
tonight.
HPM will be there. Yeah, you get to say, and I'd love to say hello to listeners of Texas
Well, we had
Standard.
people on here saying hello to you. Things like, hi, it's Julio from Houston. I
Hey,
hear
Julio.
the Texas Standard on Spotify.
Oh, that's so cool.
Toxic Talk Good Music says that voice is everything.
Oh, my goodness. Thank you so much. That's so sweet of you
And
to
my
say.
British computer guy says it's nice to put a face with the name.
Very
They'll
cool.
get
I
to
got a
do
face
that.
for radio, y'all. So there we are.
No. You got a face for TV, so stay out of TV line. David Brown is the host of the daily statewide public radio news hour, Texas Standard. David, thank you for joining us
Hey,
today.
y'all come out and celebrate with us tonight.
5 to 7, St. Arnold's.
Thanks for
And
coming.
coming up, we're going to continue to dive in today's top stories. We'll also be speaking with newly elected board members of Cy-Fair ISD. So stay with us for the second half, or the second hour, of Hello Houston.
Stay tuned. There's more Hello Houston on the way with Ernie Manouse, Celeste Díaz Schurman, and Frank Billingsley. For the latest in local news, subscribe to the Hello Houston daily newsletter at houstonpublicmedia.org. Hello Houston is a production of Houston Public Media. The opinions expressed by the guests of this program are solely their own and do not represent the views of management, staff, or underwriters of Houston Public Media. This is News 88.7.
This is your NPR station, KUHF, Houston News 88.7, a service of the University of Houston.
Just ahead on this hour of Hello Houston, the Texas A&M University system has approved a policy that could limit courses about race and gender ideology at their school. We'll discuss this and more as we continue diving into today's top stories. I'm Ernie Manouse.
And I'm guest host Doris Childress. We'll also be joined by Kendra Camarena and Lesley Guilmart, two of the recently elected members of the Cy-Fair ISD board, who will discuss the changes ahead for the district.
Plus, we'll also share a rundown of events happening this weekend in Houston and our area for our regular Friday feature, Last Minute Plans.
And we want to hear from you. Give us a call or text us at 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org.
Hello Houston is made possible in part by founding sponsors John Bradshaw and Kathy Sanders, and by gifts from listeners like you.
Live from NPR News, I'm Lakshmi Singh. The election interference criminal case in Georgia against President Trump and several others will move forward after a new prosecutor was appointed before today's deadline. From member station WABE in Atlanta, Alex Helmick reports.
The Prosecuting Attorneys Council of Georgia Executive Director Pete Skandalakis said that dismissal at this point was not the right course of action and has named himself to lead the case and perform what he called a comprehensive review to determine how to proceed. In a statement, the president's lead defense counsel, Steve Sadow, calls the case a politically charged prosecution and says that a review of the facts will lead to dismissal.
Alex Helmick reporting. Fulton County District Attorney Fonnie Willis originally brought the massive racketeering case but was removed by Georgia court for her personal relationship with a special prosecutor. The 43-day government shutdown, which is now over, delayed funding for a program that helps millions of Americans to pay their heating bills, to buy fuel, and to repair broken equipment. Sophia Schmidt with member station WHYY says it is still unclear when people will receive that assistance.
Several states have delayed their low-income home energy assistance programs, or LIHEAP, while they wait for federal funding. Mark Wolf heads a group that represents the state agencies involved. He says it usually takes the federal government about a month to release LIHEAP money after Congress passes a funding bill. But that was before the Trump administration fired the staff that administer the program this spring.
And for families that use delivered fuels, heating oil and propane, that could put them in a precarious situation because they have to pay the vendor to get fuel delivered.
The Department of Health and Human Services says it will work swiftly to administer the funds. For NPR News, I'm Sophia Schmidt in Philadelphia.
Ukrainian forces say they are holding on to a key city in eastern Ukraine, even as Russian forces say they're closing in nearly 2 years after they first launched their fight to occupy it. NPR's Joanna Kakissis reports that both Ukraine and Russia also see the battle as key to shaping narratives about who is winning the war.
NPR spoke to 4 Ukrainian brigades whose soldiers are defending the eastern city of Pokrovsk, a city which Russian attacks have largely destroyed. Small groups of Russian troops have infiltrated the city, leading to intense street battles. Volodymyr Polovyi is with Ukraine's 7th Rapid Response Corps.
The brigades are really exhausted. The enemy has changed its tactic. We have the infiltration of infantry groups, and they are covered by the swarms of drones.
Russia is also using an elite drone unit called Rubicon, which hunts down Ukrainian drone operators. Joanna Kakissis, NPR News, Kyiv.
It's NPR.
Live from News 88.7 in Houston, I'm Tom Perumian. TSA officers who kept working through the government shutdown got more than just thank yous on Thursday. National Security Secretary Kristi Noem handed out $10,000 bonus checks to TSA officers at Bush Airport. Noem even praised Officer Rico Walker for his commitment.
He's also a member of the National Deployment Force, which means that he takes on extra responsibilities at TSA. He not only fulfilled every one of his hours during this shutdown, but he also was more than willing to take on extra shifts.
Meanwhile, things are still not back to normal at local airports today. 21 flights are reportedly canceled at Bush. 15 are canceled at Hobby. There's 2 million pounds of ice inside a tent just steps from the beach in Galveston, all part of Moody Gardens' upcoming Iceland exhibit. News 88.7's Juliana Washburn has more.
30 ice carvers from Harbin, China have spent the past month transforming large ice blocks using hand tools or chainsaws into sculptures of the Arc de Triomphe in Big Bend. And as Moody Gardens spokesperson Jared Schaller points out,
this week we have the Trevi fountain that's brand new, and it was just a huge block of ice last week.
Moody Gardens will open its Iceland exhibit for its 11th year on November 22nd. The theme is Christmas Around the World.
You get to walk through some amazing things, like we have the Alamo that you get to walk through. We have the Great Wall of China.
The exhibit will run through January 3rd. From the Galveston County Bureau, I'm Juliana Washburn, News 88.7.
Checking your weather. It's going to be sunny and 83 today with light winds. Mostly clear tonight with a low around 64 degrees. Right now, partly cloudy, 81 degrees on the UH campus. For more news and information, go to houstonpublicmedia.org. I'm Tom Perumian, News 88.7.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Capital One, offering their dining and entertainment card, Savor. What's in your wallet? Terms apply. Details at CapitalOne.com. And listeners like you who donate to this NPR station.
Live from Houston Public Media and News 88.7, it's Hello Houston, an open forum on today's biggest stories affecting Houston and beyond. Call now, 713-440-8870, or let us know your thoughts on today's topics by emailing us at talk@hellohouston.org. And now, Hello Houston with Ernie Manouse, Celeste Díaz Schurman, and Frank Billingsley.
Well, he's not even mostly right. He's somewhat right. Ernie Manouse is here, but filling in for both Frank and Celeste. It takes a powerhouse to fill 2 chairs at once, and we have Doris Childress doing that with us. Hello, Doris.
Hey, Ernie. How are you?
It's nice to have you here in studio with me.
It's always fun to be with you.
To remind people, because some people may be just joining us, of course, you can watch us on YouTube, too. You can join us there as well. But Doris and I have a long history together. When I first was whisked away from Chicago to come work in the crazy world of television, they paired me up with the best co-host anyone could have had on a daily television show, and that was Doris Childress. And
we stole Chicago's best talent.
No. They brought me down here so I could learn from Houston's best talent.
Oh, my God. I'm blushing.
All right, enough of us fawning over each other. We've got a great show for you today. You know, if you've followed the news or if you are a parent, you probably paid a lot of attention to what was going on over in Cy-Fair Cy-Fair with their Board of Education. So it was slanted very conservative. There was an election. It seemed to shift more back to the center because of the way the people voted. We have 2 of the 3 new folks that are filling seats on the Cy-Fair board will be with us in a little bit to talk about what they hope to do and their vision for how public education should move forward in that community and what we can all learn from that.
Education is a hot topic, so let's move on to some more education news.
You know what? Before we even do that, I got to stop because
Why?
earlier on you gave the story about Pope Leo and his
that's
favorite
right.
movies, and there were 4 that were published. It's a Wonderful Life, The Sound of Music, Ordinary People, and Life is Beautiful. You added in that he also loved
The Blues Brothers.
The Blues Brothers. So we asked folks, what do you think of that list? And I just have to go to it before we get into our real news. So Colby from Katy said, I'm surprised Forrest Gump wasn't on the list because it should be on everyone's list.
That would have been a good one for him.
That would have been an interesting one. Another one, The Blues Brothers and Jaws, for that matter, are 2 of the best movies ever. That came in as a text.
But does it fall in line with those themes
Jaws
that he
seems
has?
a bit much for him. Also, let me ask you this. What do you think? Do you think this list of movies is truly what are his favorite movies? Or do you think a group of PR people and social media folks sat down and crafted what the Pope's movies should be with the ideas of what this Pope wants to represent and all? Or do you think it truly is his list?
Well, when we were sitting down, Pope Leo and I, we were talking. No. I just kind of think it's his list because they just reflect what he's always talking about and his mission in ministry.
Right.
So I can see these movies resonating with his entertainment.
I'm such a cynic. I have to think, it was spun. Somebody planned it.
You're a funny cynic.
A funny cynic? I'll take that one. Also, Andrew wrote, Ordinary People is also on my list, but so is Dr. Zhivago and Lawrence of Arabia and Cabaret, the best musical ever. I will tell you, I am surprised Cabaret made that list of the other films they had picked because Cabaret seems a bit racier, a bit more issue-driven.
That's good.
Lawrence of Arabia, I'm sorry,
That's okay.
Andrew. I tried to watch that. I couldn't. I love an epic. I love a long movie. I love those big Technicolor CinemaScope. Lawrence of Arabia.
Oh, I remember that. You remember watching those movies on Sunday nights?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that was like the highlight of the week.
Every Easter Eve, every year, I still invite friends to my house and we watch the Ten Commandments. All 4 hours.
It's not Easter without it.
No, it isn't.
You still haven't told us your top.
Yeah, moving along. It's a Wonderful Life is my all-time favorite, according to my British computer guy. Nicole Joe says, do y'all have Letterboxd? I love it. Do y'all have Letterboxd? I don't know that one. Is that a movie? Is that a how we should watch movies?
Is that a streaming?
Am I just out of touch and don't know what you're talking
I'm
about?
old.
Explain it to us over in the YouTube comments. We're watching those. Also, Judy says, despite my crying in Pinocchio every time, my number 1 movie is one of my favorites, Citizen Kane. Second is the movie that explains the importance of myths, power, and value in American politics, The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance. I haven't heard of that movie in a long time. Thank you for bringing that back up into my conscience.
This is a good list
I got to do
that
it.
people are putting in, because it's not the obvious ones.
Oh, and here's something you got to do.
What?
My British computer guy says, Ernie, Doris needs to read the date. She is sitting in Celeste's spot after all. It's a rite of passage. Celeste gives the day of the week and the date.
So today is Friday, November 14th. And
Thank
I
you.
can remember that because tomorrow is Mom's birthday.
Your mom's birthday?
My mom's birthday.
All right,
So
I know you should
happy
never
birthday,
ask a
Mom.
woman's age, but I'm not asking her. I'm asking you. How old is she going to be?
Mom's going to be a very young 82.
82. Wow.
82. I mean, she is vibrant.
Okay, I am going back over to, and I don't mean to dismiss your vibrant mother
That's
and
okay.
her birthday. Happy birthday to you, Mom. Letterboxd is a social networking platform for movie lovers to track films, write reviews, create lists, and engage with a community of other cinephiles. And it's spelled Letterbox with just the letter D.
I just learned
Letterboxd.
something.
Yeah, I'm going to have to check that one out. Thank you for sharing that information. Also, Toxic Talk Good Music wishes your mom a happy birthday.
Thank you.
She'll be happy to hear it. Okay, now you wanted to get into the news, so we shall get into the
let's
news.
get
Take
into it.
away.
Guess what? Courses at Texas A&M University schools that advocate race or gender ideology or topics related to sexual orientation or gender identity will only be allowed with pre-approval following a policy change on Thursday. The Texas A&M University System Board of Regents voted unanimously to approve 2 policy changes that limit curriculum related to sex and gender identity and prohibit faculty from teaching material outside of the approved course syllabus. While the policy changes go into effect immediately, they will not be enforced until the spring semester, according to the board. Now, several former and current faculty members spoke against the changes ahead of the board's vote. 2 faculty members spoke in favor of the change, and nearly 150 letters were also sent to the board regarding the proposal. The new race and gender policy has garnered condemnation from educational rights advocates, including the Foundation for Individual Rights and Expression, which is FIRE, and they sent a letter to the regents earlier this week arguing that the policy amounted to censorship. The policy changes came several months after then Texas A&M University President Mark Welsh resigned after controversy over a gender-related lesson resulted in the ousting of several educators. Welsh reportedly received $3.5 million in payout after resigning. So what do you think about this change to the policy? Is it fair? Or is it the big word censorship? Call us at text us at 713-440-8870.
It's interesting here. I have some split thoughts on this one.
I know.
I understand that we're in a time where curriculum is being looked at in a different way than maybe it was when we were both back in college and how we looked at universities and what was going on there. But in one way, I think it may be a sense of, and maybe I'm being too optimistic here, but a sense of protection. Because what it's saying is you have to have pre-approval to teach these things. If that is simply to protect the professors that then move forward with a lesson plan that others may find objectionable, they now have the protection of saying, this was approved, and we are teaching what was approved. But as your question at the end goes to, if it is being used to censor and limit what is being taught beyond what is reasonable, then I have a problem with it.
Yeah, it's like the teaching. You want them to teach without prejudice or without their perspective. Just lay out the concepts, the issues, the framework by which we are living now, and let the students delve into and kind of wrestle with the concepts when we're talking about gender identity and all the other different ideologies. But when you skew it to your own perspective, then you go beyond the academic position that you're in.
Right.
You know, I teach. So when I am teaching things of this nature, I just lay out the concepts and then let the students have their discussion. If you're for it or against it, your opinions are welcome. That's the beauty of education, to hear all of these voices so that we can learn from each other and we can learn how to interact with people who are different not other them.
Yeah. As an instructor, I assume, knowing you, you are not going way off in some uncharted territory in your lesson plan. So if you submitted it ahead of time to a university, to your department head, whatever, and then they gave you approval, yes, this is approved practice, does that then give you a sense of security when you're in the classroom that you can then address these, as opposed to the situation we saw where a student recorded what you were saying and then played it back and said this teacher did this and then that teacher gets fired and the administration gets fired and all of that happened from it? I think in some way, if it's done with the best intentions, I think it may be a good thing for protection.
I think we're just in a position now that we don't have a choice as to whether or not we're going to do that. Your syllabuses will be looked at now.
Right.
Very closely. And it's no longer, this is the outline of what we're going to do. They want to see those points, those issues, those topics that you're going to discuss. And at the beginning of the school year, I was looking for phones out, you know, because I just didn't know.
Right.
So I teach with a wide perspective of addressing everybody's thoughts and being open to hearing what each student has, because we have a diversity A diverse group of students.
Right.
And they all bring their own perspective, and I'm open to hearing them.
713-440-8870. What do you think about this topic? What do you think? Give us a call or text us. Brenda from Montrose is on the line with an opinion. Brenda, what are you thinking today?
Well, I'm thinking that I'm very embarrassed to tell people that my kids graduated from Texas A&M. With the firing of faculty over the video or the recording from that girl several months ago to what has happened now, it's censorship. This is like the early 30s of Nazi Germany, and people are just going along. No one seems to be able to get us back, this country, to being able to be a country without censorship, without fear of speaking your mind. And I fear it's just going to get worse.
Am I being too Pollyanna here, thinking that there could be some safety and protection for teachers within this policy?
I think you are, honestly.
Yeah.
I think that, when kids transition from living at home with their parents and what their parents' beliefs are to being able to form their own beliefs, and the only way to do that is to have a full understanding of our country and its citizens. We are a diverse group. Not everybody is Christian.
Right.
And, I was born to a father whose mother was Jewish and a mother whose father was Jewish. I practiced nothing, but I feel as though, we're being forced into a evangelical Christian belief system and ignoring all other, or having respect for other thoughts.
Brenda, thank you so much for calling in and sharing that with us. And sometimes I need to hear, maybe I am being too Pollyanna. I'm trying to look for the good in everything. And
But that's what needs to happen in the classroom. Just
right.
She had the key word, respect.
Yeah.
You were able to respect her opinion and then take a step back and say,
I actually kind of agree with her opinion more than mine.
But you took a step back to say, oh, maybe.
Yeah.
So that's what we need in the classrooms too.
I think part of it for me is thinking about teachers are put out there with no protections now. And you don't know where you're going to step that could be a landmine. And you may think, okay, I'm teaching. I mean, we had a class in psychology, I think that was, I can't remember the full name of it, something in sexuality in modern culture. And we looked at all these different issues and these different couplings and how this all worked out. Today would not be allowed to be taught. They weren't giving us a blueprint to how we should live our lives, but explaining there's a world out there full of different people living different ways. And we did that also with religious studies. And I think in today's day and age, what I was hoping and taking my Pollyanna end of this was then teachers would feel protected to know once the syllabus was agreed upon, they could teach as needed. But on the other hand, like what you're saying, you can't predict what's going to come up when conversation is open and honest, and issues are going to be raised that maybe you hadn't thought of before. And when those come up, you shouldn't be limited from being able to discuss in a thoughtful and respectful manner as you understand what's being shared. So I'm all over the board on this one. Let's see if Scott knows it better than I do. Scott's on the line from Med Center. He called in on 713-440-8870. Scott, what are you thinking?
Hey, I'm 62 and came up through public schools, and that education was a good one at the time. But I'm also a lifelong learner, and I know that we've learned a lot more about American history because of, I think, specialties like Black history and women's history, and the different academic studies that you're talking about. So I think we should be honest about the fact that we haven't taught American history as fully as we should. And that perhaps if we would start there and embrace Black history as American history, et cetera, that we'd all be better off.
Scott, thank you for your comments and your thoughts on that. I think he brings up interesting points, too.
That is an interesting point. I think we just totally forget that enlightenment comes through the transformation of learning. When you learn, you're becoming enlightened to the world around you. You better receive people, engage with them. And when you shut it all off and you only get that one perspective, I think you're ill-equipped to move forward professionally and just in a human way.
Yeah. Also, when I think about from a science point of view, you don't always get the results you want, but you follow what the facts teach you and what you learn, and then you evolve from there.
You look at the variables.
Right. And so when you look at history, or we'll just stay in history. When you look at history, if you find things you weren't expecting to find and they don't fit the thesis or narrative you started with, that's okay. That's redefining, that's learning, that's growing. And I think so if you were taught a history one way, and now you find out, well, maybe that history wasn't fully accurate, and we're finding out other pieces of it, and we're incorporating that. Holding on to old beliefs when new facts have been presented to you, I think is a bigger crime.
I think word choices, when you said not fully accurate, that's sometimes what it puts people on the defense.
Mm-hmm.
I think the word should be not fully developed or explored, because when you say not fully accurate, we're saying that what you've been taught is totally wrong. It may have been right, but you just excluded some other elements of it. So when we do that, those trigger words really put people on the defense. And I'm not scolding you, Ernie.
No. I'm thinking also back to what's recently being talked about when we look at the Alamo and how we're telling the history of the Alamo. And if you grew up on the John Wayne movie of the Alamo and that more glamorized view of what happened, you have a very specific understanding of it. But if we start learning that there were other issues at play there that may have been ignored or pushed away from the narrative that was being shared, why is it wrong to learn more? Why is it wrong to hear the rest of the story, as Paul Harvey used to say?
There's nothing wrong with hearing or learning the full story of our nation.
Right.
But you have to frame it with students and young minds, putting them at ease to know that I'm not knocking you or making you an other. Frame it where this is our history. There's a difference between progress and, what was the word? Productivity and progress. We're productive when we learn more, and that progress that we make enhances the life that we have. Yeah. So I think when we look at it and we tell people that we're always a country of promise and progress, promise to do better, and we keep progressing.
That's a good point. The one that comes to my mind is those who forget the past are condemned to repeat it.
There you go.
Add both of those together and you got our thoughts. Let's see what Ted's thoughts are. He's calling us from Westbury. Ted, what's on your mind?
Are you familiar with the term blockbusting? Are both of you familiar with it?
Help us with it. How are you referring to it?
It was one of the major things that affected the African American community. It was a tool that was used by the real estate industry to scare white people into moving out of neighborhoods like the ones near the University of Houston, Riverside Terrace specifically. White people were freaked out because the real estate industry put people in homes, African American people in homes. They had wild parties. And then the next day, the real estate industry came into the neighborhood and started knocking on doors and telling white people, this is what happens when black people move into your neighborhood. So it was temporarily good for black people. And then black people got bad terms on their contract on homes, and frequently the homes flipped once, twice, 3 times. None of this is in the typical American textbook. This is the kind of stuff that A&M wants to keep out of their curriculum. It is a major part of this, of American history. A man from UC Berkeley by the name of Richard Rothstein wrote a book called The Color of Law, and it was how our government went along with this and just gave minor slaps on the wrist of these white real estate companies who did what they did. So it was an illustration of why a president of a university should not be discriminating against what is being taught in the classroom.
Ted, thank you for your comments. We're going to move on quickly to Andre from the 3rd Ward. Andre, what's on your mind?
Hey, to echo what Ted was talking about, that Prairie View A&M is a part of the Texas A&M system. With this new rule in place, a historically black university, where like I went to, Texas Southern, Prairie View would need approval to teach African American literature or to have their syllabi reviewed by the administration to teach Black history. Before I attended Texas Southern, I attended majority white institutions. I wasn't taught about Langston Hughes or Miriam McCall Bethune. I wasn't taught about that until I attended Texas Southern University. How is a university like Prairie View, or if Texas Southern were to be put in a part of a system, if it had rules like this? They make no sense and they're biased.
Andre, thank you for that. Doris, your reaction?
Well, I mean, I think he may have a point there, because if it's censored that much, do you lose the richness of the HBCU, where students get the perspective they may not have gotten in a predominantly white institution? I went to predominantly white institutions, college as well as, K through 12. I was in the Aldine School District, and I can tell you, we went from you get all of history, and it was like, bleep, civil rights, let's go. And then that was it. I mean, and when you got to that, it was slavery, civil rights, MLK, let's move on.
Yeah.
And I was always left with needing more. But what happened was my mom and dad bought us this big series of Black encyclopedias. And that's where I had to learn it. And it became a community effort to learn through our churches and in your homes.
Yeah.
But not everybody has that opportunity. So if you take it away in these HBCUs or just any university, you don't get the full story.
Yep.
And we learn from the fuller story. We do learn how to interact with people better.
I am not Catholic, but I went to a Jesuit university, and what I appreciated about it was that they did open up and shared ideas. The Jesuits often get in trouble for being a little too liberal there, but it showed us different ways to think about life. As total side note, which doesn't really fit exactly what we're talking about, but the importance of arts and culture and film and music and all of that supplements what you learn in the classroom. Because when he mentioned Langston Hughes, I remember seeing a fabulous documentary about the life of Langston Hughes, which opened my eyes to the work he had done, because it was at the Chicago International Film Festival. It wasn't part of my curriculum, but the world around us is rich, and there's a lot of opportunity to learn. We should understand what we're seeing. Our university should be encouraging this kind of exploration and learning and understanding. Doesn't mean you agree with everything you see. You don't have to. But you do need to understand that it exists, why it exists, and how it plays into what we believe and do as individuals.
Because it still affects you.
Yeah,
it really
still
does. Yeah.
Speaking about what affects us, time, and we can't control it, so we got to move on. Thank you for joining into this conversation. All that really quickly. Today is National Pickle Day. I'm just sharing that with you because I know you like pickles. Okay, coming up, we're going to be talking with folks from the Cy-Fair ISD board. They're new to their positions. We're going to be excited to share it with you. This is News 88.7 Hello Houston.
Hi, I'm Michael Schaefer. My partner Ellen and I have been proud supporters of public radio and TV for decades.
We really would be lost without our daily fix of unbiased national and local news, cultural programming, and great entertainment.
But with recent federal defunding, stations like Houston Public Media face real challenges.
Now's the time to step up.
Give now at houstonpublicmedia.org.
Thank you.
Spot in Mackenzie and Isabella's house that's perfect for eavesdropping on their parents. It's a small sitting nook on the second floor, right at the top of the stairs.
So you can hear everything that's going on. They'll have the door closed and you can hear murmurs. We're kind of in the shadow. Like, I know what's going on, but I don't know exact things.
What they've been overhearing for the last year and what they think of it this week.
You can hear that tomorrow morning at 11 o'clock.
Support comes from the 2025-2026 Imprint Brown Reading Series with Booker Prize winner Kieran Desai reading from her new novel, The Loneliness of Sonia and Sonny, Monday, November 17th at the Alley Theater. More at imprint.org. Support comes from Asia Society, Texas, presenting The House of Pikachu, art, anime, and pop culture, exploring anime's global reach through the work of artists from Japan, Brazil, China, and beyond. More info at asiasocietytexas.org. Support for Houston Public Media comes from ROCO, performing live scores to classic films at River Oaks Theater in From Silence to Sound, Opening the Connections series, Friday, November 14th. Tickets at roco.org.
Support comes from SunnyPro, a Houston-based business advisory firm providing consulting solutions, specializing in mergers, acquisitions, divestitures, and valuations for exit planning. Details at sunnypro.com or follow at SunnyPro LLC.
Support comes from Visit Galveston, highlighting holiday shopping in historic downtown Galveston, where the Strand and Post Office Street feature local shops, galleries, and antiques reflecting the island's coastal character. More at visitgalveston.com.
And now back to Hello Houston. To comment on today's topics, call or text 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. Now here's Ernie Manouse and guest host Doris Childress.
All right, we have 3 newcomers to the Cy-Fair ISD board in the studio with us today. Kendra Camarena and Lesley Guilmart, and Cleveland Lane Jr. He's not here with us today, but all 3 won their races last week, shifting the board's balance of power and ending a conservative majority at Texas's 3rd largest school district, one that's been in place since 2023. Joining us today are 2 of the newly elected trustees, Lesley Guilmart, who won position 5, and Kendra Camarena, who won position 7. So, ladies, thank you and welcome to Hello Houston. How's it going?
Thanks for having us.
Have you rested since that big election?
Yes, we have rested.
Races are hard. I don't think people understand exactly, unless you've ever done it, and the tension and the sweating it out and all of that. You folks were in a very highly publicized race, and a lot weighed on whether or not you would get in or not. And a lot of people thought, and we'll get into a little bit more of the landscape of it in a minute, a lot of people were looking at 1 or 2 might get in. All 3 of you, which came from a more, if it's right to say, a more centrist way of looking at a board as opposed to the way the board had seemed to have been developing, which was much more conservative. Kendra, why don't you start out and explain your point of view on this? Did I get it right, too, in the way I said it?
No, I think you got it exactly right. There was a coalition that came together really after the last election for school boards in 2023, where you saw everyone from the political spectrum, Republicans to Democrats and everything in between. And they came together to really search and look for candidates. And so we came out as the nonpartisan group that was supported by people from across the political spectrum, and we targeted the topics and the issues that we were having in the district that impacted everyone, from parents to teachers to our taxpayers.
And I want to get into those topics in a moment, but Lesley, what fascinates me is in today's day and age that a more centrist group of people can get elected, even in Texas. And I think that gives a lot of hope to the future for our country, that we can start coming together in the middle and listening to the facts and reasoning about an issue as opposed to going into political ideology.
Absolutely. I mean, I think that something that made Kendra's, Cleveland's, and my race special was that we are all parents of current students ourselves. We have skin in the game. We have knowledge and passion around public education, and that came across to the community. And it was easy to stay on message and be consistent because we were running on what we absolutely believe in and on our own experiences, and could empathize and connect with voters who were seeing and experiencing the same things we were.
You know, the word reshaping keeps coming up in relations to your election. How will you reshape this board and address community issues? We'll start with you, Leslie.
With me?
Lesley.
Sure. Okay. Well, we still have to figure out, strategy and learn the ins and outs of how the board works. But yes, there's been a realignment. You now have again, 3 current parents and experienced educators on the board who are really committed to looking at the data, looking at what the research says is best practice in education, and truly listening to all stakeholders in the community and respecting various points of view. And so I think coming from that standpoint, is just going to naturally shift the conversation and the focus on the board.
Do you think that the past board did not listen to the stakeholders?
I mean, I've been watching and attending board meetings in Cy-Fair now for 5 years, and I have witnessed that myself several times.
And that's what resonated with people, the promise of listening.
I think that's part of it.
So what do you think they want you to hear right now?
Well, I think our priorities are really clear. We're facing a $45 million deficit, so they want us to make really smart financial decisions. Now, we actually have decreased that, I believe, to 11 million, but that still doesn't mean that we're at a deficit. So we have to make really smart financial decisions, and we need to make sure we're prioritizing student safety and success. That was one of our things we were always talking about. We want kids to get to and from school safely, because as you're familiar, we had bus cuts, and our region does not have the infrastructure for kids to get to and from school safely. We have a lot of major thoroughfares where they were crossing streets on Fry Road, where the speed limit is 45 miles an hour, goes down to 30. So that's just one example. We've seen our librarians being cut, where librarians are having to share campuses. Our students aren't having access to that. That was one thing that resonated deeply with our community, because we all know, I mean, especially as educators, the importance of elementary school and having a book in a kid's hand to help them gain that love for reading is really, really important. And I just think about my daughter's experiences versus the experiences that kids have today.
It's funny, when you started right off talking about budget, which is probably the least sexy part of all of this conversation, but so important. If you don't have the funding to do it, all the rest of this goes out. I guess I'll take it, though, over to those sexy topics, the ones that get people going all the time. But I don't know if interference is the right word, or if guidance is a more kind word, that the state is putting on what we do in our classrooms, and how you feel that relationship should be. What should the teachers be deciding in what they teach? What should the principals in the individual schools? What should the school board? What does the state decide? How do we decide who's in charge? And where does the parent say come into all of this?
There's a lot to unpack there.
Yeah, that's a big question, so I'm going to sit back now and let you talk for the rest of the segment.
Of course, the school board is beholden to comply with the state, right? But another idea that the three of us ran on that we're very committed to is taking this coalition that we have built, this platform within the community, and turning it into strong advocacy at the state level, because we do know that we are limited to by what comes out of Austin, right? And the midterms are coming up, and it's important for our community to understand that the folks that they send to Austin are the ones then making the decisions that come back and impact us, that do or don't give board members, principals, teachers, and parents flexibility in their education. And so that's something we're thinking a lot about, is advocacy in Austin and what that can look like.
Quick question. You both are parents, right? And you said you have kids. So from a parent perspective, and now you're in a position of power, what does student success look like for you as a parent and as now a mover and shaker?
Well, I'm going to, as someone who, I have a senior, and so for me, when I think about student success, it's not just state testing success, right, and academic success and passing, but it's really giving them the experiences that I know that when my baby moves on, she's going to be able to navigate the world. And what does that mean? You know, they have a great theater program where my daughter is. She's an assistant stage manager. She's learning to manage. She's learning to focus on equipment behind the scenes. She has access to clubs and other activities that interest her, so she can grow on those interests and make them become strengths. And then there, of course, is the basic academic needs. But to me, it's really focusing on having a well-rounded student, right, is to me what success looks like, and a student who can go into any environment specifically when we think about like our community speaks over 100 different languages just within Cy-Fair ISD. That is representative of the diversity of our area. And so I also want my baby to be able to understand the importance and the beauty of diversity of perspective and experiences, and be able to take those as well and grow from those opportunities.
It's interesting you say that. It brings back a story that I remember of speaking with a mother, and she was saying how we don't have a TV in our children's bedroom because we don't want them exposed to what's on television. But the child had a computer. And my reaction to that was, you can try and safeguard all you want. That's a big world out there, and you can't control all that. What you have to do is teach them how to process what's being thrown at them.
Yes.
And that's where and so I worry in the limits, some would call it censorship, that's happening in the classroom today. It strong arms against having that ability to teach your children how to navigate challenging things that they're going to encounter, because we're not always going to be there to protect them. I saw you look over at Leslie on that one, so I'm guessing Leslie might be able to address this.
Well, Leslie does a really great job, especially as a former English language teacher, to explain this. So
Sure. So critical thinking, right? Just like you were saying, helping kids learn how to process and navigate all the different information that's coming their way. You know, in the English language arts classroom, one of the things we're tasked with is helping kids to be discerning consumers of information, examining the sources that the information is coming from, and exploring all sides of an issue, which we see in social studies as well, which is Kendra's area. And so, yes, and the teacher's role in helping kids explore complex, sometimes controversial issues, which, by the way, are engaging for students. They want to be talking about things that are on the news and relevant and impacting their daily lives. And we get more engaged learners when we give them access to those topics, right? But then the teacher's role in that is to help introduce students to the other point of view if it's not being represented, to check their own bias and politics at the door, and remember that their role here is to help kids navigate all that information that's coming at them and think about it critically.
You know what? Everything you said is what I got in public school when I went. And I'm just so amazed that we got away from that type of learning. And I don't remember when the shift happened, but when I had kids, I made the decision to pay to go to St. Agnes because they were teaching what I got for free. And I don't know how do we get back to that kind of learning?
I want to say one thing here, and then I would like for our board to be a part of shifting our culture in Cy-Fair ISD among the staff away from one of fear back to joy and empowerment, because my understanding is that educators are censoring themselves right now because they're afraid for their jobs and their livelihoods. And having worked in Cy-Fair ISD myself for 5 years, I know the incredible quality of educators that we have and how responsible and ethical they are. And we want to keep the high expectations. We believe in accountability, but we want our educators to feel empowered to do what they know is right by their learners, which is giving them exposure to different ideas and then helping them navigate that.
Kendra, let me take the opposite point of view, just for sake of argument here. You've got a parent listening, though, and says, but a lot of this does not align with what we believe, what I want my children to know, how I want them to know it. They're my children. I have a right to dictate what's happening in the classroom. Answer.
Well, thank you, because I actually had that question come up and have had this discussion from a social studies lens, because that's what I spent 18 years in. We teach facts, but part of the social studies curriculum and standards actually that the state provides us is point of view. And so when we teach those facts, we also have to teach those different lenses, the different perspectives, the different points of view, the points of view that your family may or may not agree with, but it's important for them to have that understanding because it is part of our standards. And then we have to understand, my favorite is I used to teach Samuel Adams. Was he a hero or a villain? Because by the loyalist, he was a villain. But by the Patriots, he was a hero. And so understanding, too, that the complexities of a lesson, you may only see one thing your student brings home. I'm sending home a political cartoon that has a bias. But the point of the activity is for them to actually analyze that and understand that this is coming from a specific point of view and then identify who that group is. And so I think part of it is understanding kind of the complexities of lessons, and that we need to be able to demonstrate different points of views for students to be able to recognize it when they're out, past beyond their high school education and beyond in the workplace.
Are the parents you're talking to understanding than that when you put it out like that, or are you finding resistance still?
I did actually find a lot of individuals that I spoke to when I had that conversation kind of have an aha moment. Mm-hmm. Because sometimes, especially on social media too, you only see one piece. You don't see the whole story.
Okay. Well, I appreciate you guys being here. You have been enlightening. I love talking to educators. I really
Congratulations
do.
on winning.
Thank you.
We did ask Cleveland to join us also, but he was unable to attend. But we're happy you both could make it.
Thanks for having us.
So Kendra and Leslie, thank you for joining us. Cy-Fair Board District, go ahead out there and get that work done. Thank you for joining us here on Hello Houston. Coming up, we'll talk about a few last-minute plans for the holidays maybe and the weekend.
In general, and the weekend.
Okay.
Coming up right here
Thanks
on
again,
Hello
guys.
Houston. Thank you.
It's not just your car. It's the one that brought your kids home from school, took you cross-country, held memories, laughter, even a few breakdowns. When it's time to let go, give your car a new purpose. Donate it and turn memories into meaningful support for this station. Plus, you'll enjoy free, easy pickup, potential tax benefits, and a simple donation process. Your gift supports the programs you and your family love. Donate today and help keep public media strong. Call or donate online.
It's pretty well known.
I think it's as simple as peace and love,
I'm Elsa Chang. John and Yoko's son, Sean Ono Lennon, talks with me about what's less understood about his famous parents, especially his mom. And we get into the new documentary 1-to-1 on All Things Considered from NPR News.
It's coming up today at 3 o'clock.
This week on The Sam Sanders Show, Chef Samin Nosrat. She found fame with her hit cookbook, Salt, Fat, Acid, Heat. But to her surprise, it didn't feel good.
Achievement and success was never going to fill the unfillable hole in my heart. And
Achievement is a treadmill.
Yes. And ambition is like a lie.
Samin Nosrat on finding the joy in cooking again.
You can listen to The Sam Sanders Show coming up Sunday night at 6.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from listeners like you and from the Houston Ballet, presenting Stanton Welch's The Nutcracker. The holiday tradition returns to the Wortham Theater next Friday. Tickets available at houstonballet.org.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from Baylor College of Medicine. With 125 years of innovation behind it, Baylor has driven progress in health and medicine through research, education, and care that push the frontiers of modern science.
And now back to Hello Houston. To comment on today's topics, call or text 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. Now here's Ernie Manouse and guest host Doris Childress.
Believe it or not, we've made it to the last segment of the show. You survived.
I survived.
You survived
I
this
like
far.
the music that we're coming out on.
Jim Kovacic, Jimbo, our
Thanks,
producer.
Jim. You made my
he pulls
shoulders
all
jiggle.
this together. A lot of it he even writes himself and performs for us, and then he also pulls some cuts here and there. Yeah, he's multi-talented. Actually, if you go out to the Texas Standard Party tonight at St. Arnold's Brewery Company that we were talking about earlier, Jim is performing there tonight with his group.
Way to
duo,
go, Jim.
or whatever we call it, or just Jim. I don't know who all's going. Jim, turn on your mic. I can't hear you.
Advice about this. They really.
You know what? I don't hear him. I know. He's trying to tell me something, and I'm sure it's very important in an answer to my question.
But
so
it
that's
is
happening
the
today.
weekend.
It is. We've had a lot of activity today because before we get into weekend plans, we were talking movies.
Yes.
And we were talking about Pope Leo's list of movies. And people keep sharing their favorite movies with us or their shock and surprise at what the Pope picked as his favorite. Not so much shock, more like, oh, he likes those movies too, which I think is great at making folks feel like the Pope, I was going to say the papal head of the church, the Pope is also human. He's part of us. And he came from Chicago, and he has movies that fit in with a lot of us and our families would also love. Okay.
But you've been avoiding the question, so I don't know if he just doesn't want to tell us what his movies are.
No, it's just so hokey. So you can obviously tell the type of movie I like. So my top 5, and the way I think of them are the movies I would come back to all the time.
Okay.
Like I'll watch over and over, I can never get enough of. Sunset Boulevard, All About Eve, Anti-Mame, not Mame, the Lucille Ball one, but the original Anti-Mame, 10 Commandments, of course, and Citizen Kane.
Okay.
What's funny is I think the as I look at the list, the most recent one came out in 1957. So I definitely have an older taste in film. So I tried to throw together a little bit more
Some new
recent
stuff,
list.
yeah.
And in it is the original Halloween, Billy's Hollywood Screen Kiss, a very little movie very few people know, but I absolutely love it. And it stars the guy who played Jack on Will and Grace. It was before Will and Grace. Beautiful movie. The Ref, another movie I love. It's a holiday movie that got me in a lot of trouble many years ago reviewing it on our show.
Yes.
Got
He was
complaint phone
brutal.
calls that I liked it because I tore apart some of your favorite Christmas classics and then mentioned The Ref. But those pretty much are probably, and I'm sure as soon as we get off the air, I'm going to be like, oh my God, why didn't I say that?
yeah.
How about you?
Well, my top all-time favorite movie is The Lady Sings the Blues with Diana Ross.
Wow.
I
would
learned
not have pegged that for
Really?
you. No.
Oh my God, I'm surprised you never heard me humming and buzzing about
Well,
that.
you're always humming and buzzing about something.
But no, I learned the entire soundtrack and a little story really quick. I loved it so much that when Robert and I met, I actually made him sit down and listen to me sing the entire soundtrack on the steps of Lon Morris College. And that's when I knew this guy is infatuated with me.
Obviously. I thought you were going to say you made him sit down and watch the movie.
No.
I didn't know you had to perform
I
it for him.
embodied Diana.
That is so funny. I don't know how many years. What I've known you, almost 30 years. I never heard that story.
Really? And one of my
That is
others is an animation, The Littlest Angel.
Oh.
Made me cry.
It does. Well, we don't want you crying this weekend. There's a lot of stuff going on this weekend right here in Houston. We want you to call, share with us, 713-440-8870. What are you doing this weekend? Of course, we have the Texas Standard 10th anniversary party is going on. I'm going to Doc's, the new jazz bar. They're having an opening tonight, a preview opening. I'm going to swing by that and see what's going on there. What else is going on? There is Nutcracker's going on.
Ta-da! Nutcracker's going on, and I'm possibly going on Sunday, but today it's the Dickens Market for my mom's birthday.
So you're doubling.
That's why I have on Gingy, remember?
Yeah. I say that because Doris also told me, I haven't talked Christmas with Doris in a while. And how many boxes now of decorations are you up to that you have to pull out?
I have cut back. I am down to 60 crates for Christmas. Robert, if you're listening, hey, dude, get on it.
You are nuts. Robert is her husband. There's also the Fall Wine Fest on the Kemah Boardwalk. You can sample 72 wines from 24 wineries. That's happening on Saturday. Zulati's. I was trying to figure out, how do I say this word? It's Pilates at the zoo. Houston Zoo is going to be doing that, but you got to get up early. That starts at 7:45 a.m. on Saturday. Grow and Gather Market at Central City Co-op is happening. There's lots of wonderful farmers markets.
I should probably go to that. We had a garden this spring and had to cut it down because a snake was in it, and we don't do snakes. Yes.
You know me and snakes.
Yes.
I know you and birds and me and snakes.
But you know what? We found out this fall. I was digging around in there. We have sweet potatoes everywhere.
Well, good.
Yeah,
There's a snake
good.
in there.
I usually kill all of my vegetables.
I usually kill all the snakes. No, I don't. I'm petrified of snakes. I don't want to go near them. I don't want to know they're there. Yeah. You can also catch the Houston Rockets. They're going to take on the Orlando Magic. I hear it's a basketball game. It's going to be happening at the Toyota Center, so you can go out and see that. Coldplay and U2 on strings. You want to hear that? City Center will present the Starfall Serenade.
I think that'll be nice.
They'll be playing. Of course, Houston Symphony. They're going to show Nosferatu, along with live organ accompaniment. And we talked also, we had Wynton Marsalis on the show. They're going to be performing tonight in Galveston and Sunday night at the Hobby Center.
Oh, lucky
so
you.
That's a whole lot going out. Oh my God, British Computer Guy. He says on YouTube, I'm trying to talk my wife out of putting up Christmas decorations this year.
Don't you dare do
Doris,
that.
take it away.
You are
Chastise him.
a loving husband. Get that decoration out now. You know, it means a lot to us when you do that. I mean, it's just beautiful to see you sweating and toting all the little Santa Clauses down and putting them out and, you know, just
Is that
being
what
there
makes a
for us.
wife loves her husband even more when he suffers to put up your decorations?
It does. Just get it done, dude.
CineSpace closing party is going to happen on Saturday evening at the Houston Cinema Arts Festival, so make sure you get out and see that. And this show is coming to an end. Can you believe it? We're at the end of it all. I don't even have my closed script. Here it is.
Where
I'm
is it?
supposed to say, Doris Childress, thank you so much for sitting in and doing this
Always
with
a
me.
pleasure.
We love it when you come in.
I love
Not
to be
just
here.
me, because we have that great history, but everyone here at the station. They always say,
Well,
Doris
thanks,
is-
everyone. I appreciate the invite.
That brings us to the end of Hello Houston. We thank you for watching and listening, and we'll be back on Monday along with Celeste and Frank. They're ready to come back to me. In the meantime, you can catch the best of Hello Houston Saturdays at 1 p.m. and Sundays at 11 a.m. right here on News 88.7. So everyone, have a great weekend.
Have
Bye-bye.
a great weekend.
Thanks for listening to Hello Houston. Join us every Monday through Friday from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. to talk all things Houston. The Hello Houston production team includes Garrett Bowman, William Menjivar, Jen Altai, Todd Holslander, and Jim Kovacic. For the latest in local news, subscribe to the Hello Houston daily newsletter at houstonpublicmedia.org. Hello Houston is a production of Houston Public Media. The opinions expressed by the guests of this program are solely their own and do not represent the views of management, staff, or underwriters of Houston Public Media. This is News 88.7.
Every week on The Pulse, we hear stories at the heart of health, science, and innovation. Sometimes physicians make confessions.
We were dead wrong.
Nurses tell us what they dream about.
Beep, beep. Yes, you dream about it.
We explore how science is done.
When we're looking for the needle in the haystack, we want to look in the right haystack.
And we have frank discussions about ideas.
It's a joke!
The Pulse, Sundays at 2 p.m.